Getting ready to start on vocals. To this point, I've largely only listened on my large main speakers. I have some three-way Adams in here. Much like you guys, you probably have a big full range set. Whatever brand they are is irrelevant. Because I'm trying to hear high-end detail. I'm trying to hear the low-end punch down there in the 60 cycles range. Once I start switching to vocals is about the time that I switch over personally to NS10s or turn the volume down, any kind of a bandwidth limited speaker. Because now what I'm listening for is how all the mid-range frequency bands are overlapping. The guy who taught me, because I hated NS10s when I first started listening, and this is not a push for NS10s. I want to give you a little philosophy. What he taught me was that he's like, learn to love them because you're your best friend. Let's make it not specific about any model of speaker, just the mid-range in general. By clearing away the high end, clearing away the bottom end, and listening in a focused manner to those octaves where your guitars and your vocals and keyboards and everything, orchestra, whatever, are fighting for their spot is very important at a moderate, very, very moderate low volume too. He says, because you can hear the blends better. And man, it was hard. It was hard for me to learn to like listening to speakers like that. It's hard to get me to learn to turn it down and listen at a low level and focus on, because there's no power there. But sure enough, if you get it blended at a low level, when you turn it up, it's just better. It's just better because there's no hype. It's just mid-range and low volume that's not making you feel good because it's loud and punchy. I hope that makes sense to you guys. It's something that I know I struggled with, but he was right. It has served my career very well. So that said, I'm going to switch over to NS10s. I'm going to start bringing in the vocals before I start any automation because I feel like I'm in a sweet spot on the stereo bus. Let's pick it back up where we left off, all right?
Been on a roll, working day and night.
Let me turn that vocal compression off on the vocal group because that's different every mix depending on how on top the vocal is going to be. And she's going to be on top.
Been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight.
All right, so let's start with a little compression, tape compression, and then let's bring in one of my favorite tools, and I know this plug-in is over 20 years old, but I just flip and love it. It's the multiband MC404 of the MC2000 is the product from DSP. And it's my tone corrector. It just has a way of knocking down the top end. When the top end gets shrill, it knocks that down, allowing the low mids to stay full. Vice versa, when the singer gets in a lower register and digs in and it's throaty or chesty, it can knock down the lower octaves a little bit and let it not sound muddy. You can even use a top band as a little bit of a de-esser if you want to.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight.
Okay, let's just start with it right there where it's just barely tickling each band. And we can make decisions later if we need to knock anything down a little bit.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Okay, I need some top end on her.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Let's start.
Why don't you let me steal the show?
Let's start there. We don't want a shiny song. That's not what this is at all. So I'm going to bring the high pass filter in and make sure I'm not getting any rattly, airy, sizzly stuff any higher than I want.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Okay, let's cut some low mids.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Right there, 350.
You've been on a roll.
This is the Kirchhoff plug-in from Plug-in Alliance. Think of it as FabFilter style, but with assignable flavors. Whereas FabFilter is a digital, try to introduce no sound. This does that, but also I can tell the top band to be a Neve. I can tell the top band to be an SSL or that kind of things. I love this plugin.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
All right, now let's start putting it in the track before we make any more radical decisions and see if there's anything between our boost and between our cut that we need to deal with.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show?
It's sounding pretty good right now. So what I'm going to do, I have two tools that I kind of a lot of times rely on in more modern, heavy-handed productions like this, where it's thick and aggressive. I kind of have two tools, and it looks like I compressed decent during tracking, but not crazy. It's either the MV2 or the RVox, and I think I'm going to start with the RVox because it's this floating, non-existent threshold ratio thing. To me, I think it's a magical plug-in.
You've been on a roll.
Okay, cool. Now, and we're going to be adding body as we go. So I know it's a little thin sounding right now, just a touch, but I know that's going to change with layers of compression. For the next round of compression, I kind of have a handful of tools that I use. One of them, the distressor. 1176s, distressors, LA2As, LA3As, variable mute. There's so many great, character compressors. So my RVox or whatever is my first step of squash to get it to sound modern, but I don't want to go overly heavy-handed on it because I want to impart character with something else, a different type of circuit. And I think maybe the distressor is the guy for this song. Let's see, I'm going to add a little warmth on the bottom end. The reason I use this one is because it's got this warmth saturation knob. I love what it does. I love what it does.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight. You ain't got to check on his sugar. I got all the
Let's talk about attack and release for a second. There is no magic settings for me. Every song is different. How fast are they singing? Is it slow and smooth? Is it punchy? Is it somewhere in the middle? Is this a track that's supposed to be highly compressed sounding? Is the singer supposed to sound here? Are they supposed to sound there? Always going to be different. For me, she needs to be a little bit punchy, which means I'm not going to use a super fast attack and make it sound like she's, Green Day. That's the last thing I want for this. It'd be all wrong. So I'm going to let her punch a little bit on the attack of her words. So I'm starting around, looks like about 5.5 on the attack.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight.
Okay. All right. Another round of compression. Right here, I like on music like this, so I don't have to get overly heavy-handed with the compressors on the main track. I like to add parallel, and this is on a lot of, even jazz and Broadway stuff. Don't tell the artists and producers that I work for in those genres, because it'd scare them to death if they heard the word parallel compression. But this is the way of getting the soft parts of what they're saying audible. That's all it's about. It's about changing the relationship of the loud versus the quiet, right? That's all compression is. But that's a way of doing it in a way that's more invisible. But I'm going to add it to this, and let's get it set up right.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Okay, so a faster attack setting. So I'm not adding punch. This is all about bringing up the sustain, bringing up the tails of words, that kind of a thing.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Pretty heavy-handed, I get it. But what we're going to do, here's to me the magic elixir. I'm going to put her vocal track in there, and it's going to be just not loud enough, like that much. And then we're going to turn on the parallel compression track and bring it up until she's loud enough on top of the track. And just, so a dB or two is all we're getting out of it.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Okay, I think what I want to do to be in a sweeter spot is I'm going to turn the vocal return down, the group master, so I can have her fader a little hotter.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show?
Okay, she's not loud enough, right? Here's where we change it.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over.
More gooder. All right, that's the way I think of parallel compression working, even on, in country and Americana and folk and bluegrass and everything else. It's just a valuable tool. Not every song, but when it's right, it's right. Okay, so let's get rid of this 1176. I don't feel like I'm going to use it. Let's listen to sibilance.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight.
I don't really feel like we have a sibilance problem, which is crazy. I'm always dealing with sibilance, but Kaylee has it under control somehow. I feel like I'm a little bright, so let's turn down the high end, and let's let a little bit more of that low mid come through.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight.
Okay, I feel like that has more attitude, that little bit of extra mid-range now. By getting rid of the top end, there's more mid-range like anger in there. Last vocal trick that I'm going to show you it's a C1. It's more prominent on female vocalists. There's something in the mid-range that's a little harsh that makes her sound a little aggressive in a bad way sometimes. So let's find that and identify the frequency, okay?
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking
Okay, probably right there. Now let's just bring this threshold down until we get just a dB or two to where it's like her vocal is setting in the track just a little bit better without that aggressive mid-range part being too forward, okay?
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight.
Okay, bringing that under control. Now I feel like we can add just a tiny bit of sheen back to her.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking.
Hey everyone, it's Joe Carrell. I'm in my mix room in Nashville, Tennessee. I would like to have you guys join me right here as we mix from top down, beginning to end, a song from a friend of mine, Kaylee Bishop. If you haven't heard of her, you should check her out. She was a finalist on The Voice, just an amazing singer. It's an amazing song, kind of nasty, kind of swampy, kind of bluesy. And you're gonna be able to download the multi-tracks of this song, follow along, and it is an in-the-box mix, so you can use your plugins. We have real drums that are fat and swampy, bass guitar that's kind of aggressive. We have acoustic guitar. We also have an acoustic resonator guitar. We have a couple passes of rhythm electric. We have just a nasty slide electric guitar lead harmonica. We have a lead vocal, couple background vocals. We're gonna put it all together and try to make it sound like a hit.
Gotta let your worries wash away. You find yourself a penny.
Let's add some effects on her, okay?
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Okay, this is gonna be a spreader, you know, the typical old trick of delay and pitch shift, you know, so you delay one side by 8 milliseconds or something, and you pitch shift it down 8 cents, let's say, and this side you do just the opposite. You're gonna have the higher pitch is gonna naturally seem like it's coming to you quicker, so the one that you delay shorter should be the one that you're darkening it, lowering the pitch. And I'll show you, because that convoluted way of describing it, but I think you'll see it on the screen here and figure it out. So the delay is 8 and 16. This side seems like it gets to you faster, right? Because it does. I mean, the delay is less. So because of that, you detune it. So you make the pitch lower by 9 cents, and the one that gets to you slower, you raise it, and it kind of balances it out in a way that you just left over with a little stereo width that doesn't seem to be leaning to one side or the other. All right, here you go.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
So that's the effect. The idea is to turn it down until you say, wait, is it there? And that's the right spot, you know, and it's just kind of ear candy.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Yeah, that should be right there. I always start with delays, and I do the same thing. I send my delays to Reverbs a lot of times for depth.
You've been on a roll, working day and
Let's try a slap delay.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
That's kind of cool. You know, it's got that vintage Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley thing, but let's make it a little harder.
You've been on a roll.
A little darker, but hit harder. Trying to think of how I want to accomplish this. Let's thicken it on the bottom end and open it up on the top end a little bit. So not darker, but more saturation. Let's turn that up a little bit.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight.
All right, let me show you another trick for dimension for me. And that is the width right here. We have a big stage to work with. And so instead of just pulling up a stereo delay and letting it be full stereo all the time, I like my delays very often to work in layers. My short delays, here's the lead vocal, my short delays are here, and my long delays are here, right? So I'm building this dimension that I can visually, when I solo it up, I can see the stage in a more realistic way. It just builds, it just depth, you know, is the only word I know to use. So we're gonna put it about 62.
You've been on a roll, working.
And the reason we're gonna put it there is because that's where it already is. Oh, okay. All right, so let's hear that in the track.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight.
Okay, there's a little too much top end, but I'm kind of digging the effect. Let's knock that down to about 2K.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Okay, let's see what our time to delay sounds like.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Okay, I like that.
Why don't you let me steal the show?
Okay, we don't need long delays on this song. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna make sure this guy's dark enough and we're gonna make him full width. So let's go to 100%, thereabouts. That's the 16th note. Let's cut a little of the top end off.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Okay, you hear what that's doing?
Why don't you?
All right, so what I'm thinking I wanna do, I want a dynamic compress, I wanna compress this delay, basically, this one, not the slap. The EC300 has that built in. Watch this. So we'll click on that to where we see gain reduction. See this little GR right here? Here we go.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight.
There, it's bouncing around and doing its thing, but it's just a little contained. I like that. Let's settle on a reverb first. Let's get a balance between the slap and the 16th.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Okay, and add this guy in at full width.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking.
Do I like the short delay better?
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
No, I think I need that slap. Okay, so let's put the track on and let's pick a reverb. Maybe a short plate. Let's see.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight.
See what that is.
You ain't gotta check on sugar. I got.
That is a plate, the A plate. Just a famous setting in a lexicon. Let's drag that down. A little under 2 seconds, 1.8. Let's hear that. I'm still not gelling with it yet.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight.
I'm just not gelling yet. Let's just keep, it's got to be great.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Maybe we make the slap darker. Maybe we make it darker. Oh, it's already pretty dark.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking.
There we go. Okay, so the key was getting rid of the bottom end, so it's more mid-rangey.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
That's much cooler. I'm getting happier. And I think I'm going to leave that 16th note delay just off for now and just kind of focus on this guy.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight. You ain't gotta.
Okay, I'm getting happier now. So now let's start adding some reverb.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight.
Okay, I don't hate that.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
I actually quite like that. For the sake of the tutorial, I wish I could show you that I was struggling and reaching for different tools. But, great gear is great gear. The A plate in a Lexicon 480 just works so often. There is one thing I want to experiment with, and that is moving the A plate over here and bringing up a very small ambience patch and seeing if I like the combination of those two better. And this is a preset. I actually have a preset package in this Relab 480 that comes with it when you buy it, and some of my presets are in there, and this is one of them that's available. Joe C Vocal Ambience, I think it's called, something like that. Let me show you what it is.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
Okay, and you can shorten that if you want to be even. Right now it's a little over a second. I think I'm gonna take it under a second.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
So I'm gonna use just a touch of that.
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight. You ain't gotta check on sugar.
Okay, that's making my heart happy. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my A plate back over here because I do want a little of that for the tail. What did I have it at 1.8, I believe? Yeah, that's probably long enough for the tempo of the song and the lyric. So let's start sneaking the A plate back in there.
You've been on a roll, working day and night.
So that's our tail, right?
You've been on a roll, working day and night. Why don't you let me steal the show? I'm taking over tonight.
Okay, I'm liking that. It sounds more like a record. I don't think the average listener is ever going to hear reverb. It's just going to sound like a record to them. So we've got a fairly dry mix going. So I don't want her to be wet. I don't really want a discernible, like wow, sounds like she's in a hall or whatever. I think that's kind of the sweet spot right now. I hope you guys agree. And if you don't, send your hate mail to eric@producelikeapro.com. And all right, here we go. You know what? Let's copy the exact same settings, except I'm going to use less of the small room and a little more of the longer guy. Go on and lay it down. Because I want him to be, he's standing behind her on stage. Go on and lay it down. And I don't know if I'm going to use any delay on him or not. Maybe? Go on and lay it down. Yeah, that actually does sound kind of cool. Let's start there. Go on and lay it down. Nice. I'm very happy with that. So let's copy those over. And let's take one more look just to be safe. I like to see meters. I don't want to be surprised later. You get caught up in one thing and then you realize that something else is bad. And you're like, what's going on with that thing? I was so focused on vocals, I didn't realize this was sounding bad. And you realize you've driven so much level into it. You're just destroying every ounce of humanity that it had. Okay, so now let's kind of look at our stereo bus, but I think, man, it's feeling good. Come on, lay it down. I got the best. Yeah, I'm just tickling it. It's not a lot because I'm doing a little compression on those subgroups, remember. I can get you what you want, I'll give you everything. All you gotta do is ask me, baby. No, it ain't no time. Okay, I want a little more slap on her, just a little more of that Johnny Cash thing. I can get you what you want, I'll give you everything. All you gotta do is ask me, babe. Okay, I'm really happy with the stereo bus. So my extra track of alternate stuff for the stereo bus, I'm just getting rid of it.